Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of Printfluencers, a RACME sponsored podcast where we interview the movers and the shakers pushing the print and mail industry forward. I'm your host, Katelin Shanks, and today I am here with Mark Pomerantz, the founder of Sales Wisdom. Mark, welcome to Printfluencers.
Thank you, Caitlin. It's an honor to be here, and I look forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm hoping today that we can start off and just understand sort of a little bit more about your history. You've had, what is it now, 40 years in the print and mail space?
Yeah, actually, Caitlin, I also was a student, so I went to the Rochester Institute of Technology, RIT, and so I was a printing student, and then went into the printing industry. So yeah, it's really been truly my entire career, and wow, I've spanned across different segments and seen different technologies come and go, and a lot of things that have happened, but it's a very dynamic industry. It's always been changing all of these years, and seems every 10 or so we have a really big sea change, and I think we're definitely in the middle of one right now, that's for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to circle back to that. But before we get into the nitty gritty, into the weeds, do you want to just tell us a little bit more about Sales Wisdom and what you guys do over there?
Sure, thank you. And most of my career has been, of course, corporate and mostly on the OEM technology equipment provider side, a little bit on the print provider side as well. And in the last few years, I started thinking about, I didn't want to retire, but I wanted to start to do something different, right? So I started to think about the concept of it, and I thought the best thing to do is listen to your audience and what are the things that they're asking for without you knowing that you're looking for that. And just by the chance of working with a lot of people over this past several years, and in many cases I'm working with C-level or presidents or owners of companies, and I heard a common theme. And there was really two, and one was how overloaded all of them seem to be. They're doing four or five different jobs. They're trying to run sales, they're trying to run manufacturing, they're hiring people, they're having challenges hiring people. They have so much on their plate and not enough resources to do it. They're very ambitious in many cases. And so that's the second trend I saw is they want to get into other markets, other businesses, expand the ones that they're in, take advantage of the convergence that's happening in the industry. But they who will do it for them? They can't take themselves out. They're already overstretched. You can't take your frontline management team or your frontline salespeople off of the front lines. And I realized that people need help, but they don't need help in the perspective of hiring a new position, which is expensive and a big commitment and the benefits and all of that. They need help that could be part-time for a period of time, a known cost, uh, and and so of course the term today is fractional for that. I think like any business, any entrepreneur, you stumble yourself in if you just
Into
keep
a
following a
market?
path, you'll stumble into an opportunity eventually. And that's more or less what I did with this. And so now I work with clients mostly in those two ways, either in a situation where they're offloading something because themselves or their staff is just completely full, but they're still ambitious. They still have a lot of things to do. And probably the most common is getting into another market. They see things
Okay.
happening somewhere else. They don't know the terminology, they don't know the nuances, but they just know they need to be there. And so I work as kind of like a guide or a translator or a scout, any combination of those things. And alongside them, I don't position myself as a consultant. I don't do reports and kind of throw it over the fence and say, here's what I recommend. I'm more
Mhm.
actionable, so I try to become an extension of the team, work with whoever the primary decision makers are and whichever team members they want me to work with. And for the most part, it's the sales and marketing team.
Gotcha. Well, that's so interesting that you're looking at how companies can move into different markets. I mean, we all know that postage rates are increasing, print volumes are declining. And so everyone, I think, is in that state of mind. Where can we go? What else
Mhm.
can we expand into? Even at RackMeet, we're always thinking about that. How do we position into new markets, et cetera? So I am curious though, when you're coming in, do you they mainly want to expand into different areas of the print and mail segment, or what are you seeing?
Well, the most common situations I'm involved with is someone who's in a given segment. All right, so probably the most common ones today are commercial print people who want to take
Hmm.
on another segment because for a variety of reasons. They've made big investments in digital print. Digital
Okay.
presses can be multitask and multi-purpose more than conventional presses could be. It's a little easier to hire the resources and the people for it. And so they feel like they have a platform where they spent a lot of money and now they really want to get the most out of it. So where else can I take this? Where else can I utilize what I've already invested in? And commercial looking at label and packaging is probably the most common, but the yeah, but the trend that I see more recently in this past year is promotional. It seems
Oh, okay.
everybody wants to rush towards promo because there's a variety of ways to get into it. It's obviously a huge, wide business when you look at it from far away. You've got apparel, you've got promotional products, you've got all stickers. You've got all these different
Yeah.
types of things, right, that are part of promotional. I did write an article back a ways that was in Promo Impressions a couple months ago, and one of the guys I interviewed asked such a great question. He said, "Mark, I'm glad to do this interview with you, but tell me, where does promo start and where does it end?" And that was like such a great question, right? Oh, I don't know. I really had an
I don't
answer
think it
for
has
that.
an ending. I think the limit might not exist for promo. If you can
It
print on it or, embellish it, it probably goes in that category.
Exactly, and the technology is now allowing decoration to be done on all different types of surfaces and substrates and sizes and shapes and so on. So I see a renaissance going on there now in the same way that it started with commercial with digital print and moved into label and packaging and books kind of eventually came along and direct mail and now it's really promo is I think is the hottest item out there. Of course, Printing United is a great platform to see all of those things, right? As we know.
Oh, the toys will be fun to go out on the expo floor and take a peek at what's new.
And absolutely.
But I am curious now that we're talking about promo. I mean, we all know that it's all about customization. Everyone's putting their logos on different things and whatnot. But I am curious to know if we're going to take that next step in the personalization journey, if that's going to hit promotional products the same way it's hitting, the direct mail segment where now everything is hyper personalized. I wonder if we're going to get there with promo too. Are you seeing any of that?
Absolutely, Caitlin. But as you said, it's really just starting right now. So I think they have a bigger challenge there because in direct mail, which of course, I've been involved with as an extension of commercial for some time, at least for the most part, we had one or two types of substrates. Most flat paper, maybe a paper substitute or something, but
Yeah.
you could really utilize any given technology to cover the vast majority of direct mail products you wanted to produce. Whereas in promo, you have all these different sizes and shapes and they're not substrates, of course, right? and
Right.
and a lot of that was bought as blanks, or raw material from China for the most
Mhm.
part, or outside of the US, and had to be imported because they had to be low cost, and then the decorating would take place here, and then there was distribution channels. So you have this whole supply chain that was very price sensitive, and it was mastered for the way that it was. Now, as you said, right, with all the demands for personalization, quick turnaround, hey, I'm going to be somewhere next week, I need 20 of these, 50 of these, 100 of these, right? And so I think I see that it's starting to happen, but being, working where you are too, it's not just the print process, it's the entire process that has to change to support it, right? So
Yeah.
people have to be set up for the e-commerce, they have to be able to handle the orders, they have to be able to track things, they have to be able to match things up, and they have to do that all in record speed, in record time. So
Mhm.
it's a challenge, but there's no doubt that the promo business is moving in that direction.
So interesting. Okay. So, are you seeing, any other types of trends? I'm just going to put you in the bucket, the you've seen it all bucket. And well, maybe now it's a good time to talk about this, 10-year sort of cycle that we're in. Like, what do you think that shift is? Like, talk to me more about this cycle.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. Sometimes also we forget print is a business, right? It's a
Yeah.
business. It's a money business. It's like other businesses. We always tend to lean on the what's required for manufacturing. Of course, we are a manufacturing business, but we're a custom manufacturing business, and now we're a digital manufacturing business, and we're a multimedia business, right? So we combine manufacturing and variable and digital content that's not printed, and so we do a lot of that now. One of the things that is very interesting to me, I just learned this recently.
Ooh.
Uh, if you look at all American businesses for a period of time, let's say after World War II into the middle of the 70s, the the number one path to become a CEO, particularly of a larger company, was sales. And
Okay.
if you think about it, that was a huge growth period for American industry. Then you get into the 80s, it was a lot of consolidation and mergers and acquisitions, and Wall Street and all that was the rage in everything across all industries. Printing was not immune to any of that. So now most CEOs started to come from finance because they had to know about finance. Then you get to about 2000 and it's, the internet period, right? The .com, and then desktop publishing, digital imaging, all those things happening quickly, digital print just starting out. And so then the leadership switched from finance to operations. And
Okay.
we still have that. We still have that. But really, I believe I'm always very optimistic. And if we're going to have a good, healthy industry for the next 10 or 20 years, it's going to be based on growth. And that growth is going to come from things like convergence, creative ideas, how to mix and match different business segments and technologies, and personalization and mass production and all of that. And who knows and does that better than anyone? That's really people that come from a sales background. So I think if we can see more salespeople moving into the either starting their own businesses or moving into the C-level positions, I think that will help change a lot. And that could be one of the kind of the next 10-year growth segments. It should be led by the salespeople. I know I'm biased, but I really believe but I believe in that. I believe it's true. I think salespeople, they don't live on a spreadsheet and they're not trying to always just save money. They're trying to solve problems by increasing the top line and not the bottom line. Right.
Yeah.
So that's
And, I mean, obviously you're drawing from history to inform the present, but I also think the salespeople, we're the boots on the ground people. We know what's going on, what customers are asking for. And, sometimes we get put in the tough spot of having to say no, we don't offer X, Y, or Z, but you hear that. And over time, you really pick up on, okay, what are the consumers actually looking for? And I think that's so important today because there's articles all over the place about the changing, narrative of the consumer and what they want and their changing demands that, lean back on faster and faster SLAs, hyper personalization, multimedia, all of that. So I think you could be onto something. I will second your opinion that the salespeople could be, the next group of leaders per se in the industry.
I think that alone can change some of the dynamics. Of course, there are people who will disagree with us, but I strongly believe that. And I think there's a good case to be made. And I think leaders today should be thinking about that as they're thinking, who do I need and what do I need to do over the next 5 years or so? And I, have to say private equity companies need to start thinking that way too, because they're just too, hyper focused on what's my EBITDA today and tomorrow and next week, right? Obviously that matters, but it can't be everything. You can't save, cut your way into growth, right? You just can't. You need to grow out of issues. And so
Yeah.
that's one trend, and I feel like I see it might be starting now, and I hope it becomes a strong trend. The other big trend, of course, is obviously convergence, right? And convergence used to be just even a few years ago, it was a very select type of thing where, yeah, I think I'm going to survey my customers. And if I find someone who buying labels out from somewhere else, and I can add into my portfolio. Will you buy it from me? And that's still a legitimate start. But I think now it seems like all the walls are down everywhere. Everybody wants to fish in somebody else's pond right now, right? For
Hmm.
good reasons,
Yeah.
for good reasons, and they want to maximize the resources that they have. They want to maximize their technology investments. They want to make new technology investments, but you can't just buy it for a certain segment of your business now. You really have to look across what, like you said, salespeople that understand what's happening out there, what customers are asking for. You have to be able to then address it with what you have in your facility, right? And so that's a big influence and big impact, I think, on what people buy and why they buy compared to even just 5 or 10 years ago, right? You have to, I'm not saying you can't be a specialist anymore. There are plenty that are good at it, but I feel like you either got to be really big and immune to all the problems, or you got to be really small and really dodgy and fast and quick and go places where other people don't see you. But to survive in the middle as a specialist, I think is very hard these
Well,
days.
and as we're talking about the long term future of the industry, I mean, to reference one of my favorites, Michael Porter, in the strategy section of a Bookman's,
Yeah.
convergence is the killer of industry because all of a sudden it's a race to the bottom versus looking at how do we increase the uh, the value of an industry, like the overall profitability of an industry, and how everyone, the players in that market, go out and provide value to those end consumers. And so I think if we take that shift away from just cost and adding different tools and being able to meet all the consumer needs, and we shift away from the convergence into providing new and unique value, that'll also, I mean, that's really the only way to sustain an industry long term.
I couldn't agree more, 100%. And you're going to find that there's a lot of people who are trying to promote that message, but historically the print industry hasn't been the greatest at that, right?
What?
And you see, yeah, that's another a whole other podcast for us, Caitlin. Uh, but historically we haven't been. And the ironic thing to this is most people look at the other green grass somewhere else and say they're earning higher margins, so I want to move over there. So what happens? It gets more competitive, and then somebody tries to defend their turf, and yeah, you can get into pricing wars that can impact a business for sure. So I think the one thing we have going for us is the continued rise of digital, because it does at least allow for the unique capabilities. Now, whether people are able to and the market can bear, paying
Yeah.
more for it's not just the printers. In fairness, they have an audience, and that audience has budgets and all that to deal with. So. We just need one of those rising tide type of moments, right? Where all the businesses start moving up okay together. Right now, it's been very selective. You've had haves and have-nots.
Yeah.
Another trend I would add is I call them do's and do-nots. I've seen more
Ooh.
people kind of hunkering down right now, and I understand why, right? They're conservative. They're concerned about interest rates. They're concerned about resources. They're concerned about AI. They're concerned about
You're
everything,
just
right?
concerned. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm. Which is fair.
and I understand a lot of the concern, a lot of the reasons behind that. But again, this is a difference, I think, how salespeople approach it. I can remember several times listening to someone on my sales team giving me all the reasons why something couldn't be done, and none of them were wrong. But I said, but the problem is, our job is to change that,
Yes.
right? We have to change the course of the river. I understand it's going that way. I do. But somehow we have to change it if we're going to do that. And so I think when I say do's and do nots, the do's, I think, are the people who kind of get that, right? And they understand that there's going to be challenges, but they're feeling more like first to be good at it, is going to give them some type of advantage that at least for a while they can monetize. Hopefully, it be profitable, and they get some growth out of it as well too. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of those internal forces I think going on right now in our business.
Definitely. And then I also think, yes, for salespeople, but then at the end of the day, I like to think we're also educators where, we're out on the front lines. And if our value proposition maybe isn't landing in the market or people aren't getting it per se, all right, well, then it's up to us to make sure that we're explaining the value and getting them to sort of see our perspective and how it can, help their business and their industry and provide value that maybe they didn't see and connect the dots on to also, land and expand and provide additional growth too. So, put the teacher hat on because I would say that's a big shift in where we are because a lot of times these traditional maybe departments or businesses that are ordering print aren't seeing the capabilities that we're now able to offer with digital and personalization and all of that. So getting everyone to get on the modernization train
Yeah,
is part of our jobs now.
it is. And ultimately, we're solving problems. And the salespeople who do the best job of keeping it in the box of problem solving as opposed to bidding, right, or quoting or things like that, or trying to win on a proposal or a great PowerPoint or something like that. Uh, I think that's the difference between those who can keep their margins and profitability in a good range and those who struggle with it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's
problem solving is so important, and let's not forget that that's really the business we're in.
no, it's so true. And I mean, how many times are you really looking, as a old school sales guy in print and mail, maybe you're just going in trying to flip a piece of hardware. You're not necessarily trained to be that consultative salesperson. Like maybe you do it a little bit, but reshaping how salespeople enter the market too in print and mail, I think getting to that consultative selling level that you see in industries like tech could also be a game changer for how this industry continues to grow and the companies that'll grow more quickly with
Yeah.
higher profit margins than those who don't.
Well, you hit on a key point there, Katelin. Now, we talk about ourselves and what our issues or limitations or our strengths are as suppliers to the industry, but our audience has changed drastically. So I know one thing you asked me about this in a previous conversation, but I did write another article that I called "What About the Other 30%?" and and it's a master of the obvious types of discussion because it's pretty much for most marketers, not just in printing industry, but in any business to business and particularly capital equipment, hard goods, 70% of the research and the decision process is made before anyone even reaches out and has any type of conversation or connection with the product providers or service providers. And then that last 30% is a very different selling cycle than it was historically, right? I mean, most of us were trained, to do digging and research and good cold calling and gotcha type of selling and features and benefits. And then as you got better, you got consultative and you tried to solve problems. But most of that is taken out of the sales cycle now because everyone can do so much research online by themselves and get references and all that thing before anyone else even gets engaged with them. And so for a salesperson, that changes what you need to do, right? Because the 30 probably takes longer than the old 100 did in some people's mind. At least it feels that way sometimes.
Well, yeah, now you get analysis paralysis and information overload where there's too many choices because you have so much information available that you're trying to sort through everyone's, marketing pages up on their websites to be like, okay, well, can they solve my problem? Maybe, I don't know. And you're seeing multiple companies that have a lot of the same language on their websites. So how do you tell who
Yeah.
can really do what?
Yeah, good point. And so, yeah, so there's really kind of the two battles there. There is the marketing online commerce, not commerce, but just to draw the customers in and keep them involved and let them believe that you are going to be at least in the mix for the right solution. And that's not just your website, although that's a big part of it, and it's not just your collateral, but that's a part of it. But it's even very simple how people interact with your website. The most common thing if you would go on a website, I know in our industry for sure, and you were expressed an interest in a particular piece of equipment, let's say, the first thing you'd have to do is like fill out your name and your email address and your passport number and who knows what else. All right, forget it. And nowadays you're going to lose people by doing that, right? You have to just share this information in a way that's accessible for people, what they want, when they want, as much as they want. And that's how companies win the battle of the 70 by making themselves seen, visible, accessible, social media, just by, talking about what they do that's good for me, the buyer, and why they're considered an expert at it or showing examples of it, not self-promotion, but just making themselves visible as an expert in their areas, right? And
Yeah.
if you do enough of that, then people will eventually think, okay, I think I want, they're at least on my list. So by the
Hmm.
time they get to you, they've qualified that you're some type of an expert. Now you have to just
Yeah.
validate everything that they believe and tell them why they were right in doing that.
Oh, yeah, that is interesting. It's almost like we have to take away the gatekeeping of information that we all clung to in, our
Yes.
sacred pitch decks and our case studies and just go, all right, it's all out there. Because if we keep it shielded behind too much, marketing fluff, I like to say, on the websites, and we don't get to the heart of what we do, the value we bring, and how it can help you, then I know, even just from my personal experience, if a website doesn't just get to the brass tacks, I get annoyed. I go, all
Yeah.
right, well, you're wasting my time if I have to hunt through your website to know how you could help me. And they might be the perfect provider. And I'm going to write them off because they didn't get to the point quick enough, so to
Yep.
speak.
No, you nailed it and explained it perfectly. And I think it is, you use the example in your personal how you do business and buy things. And I try and explain that to people. Like, think about how you buy things and
Yeah.
what experiences you like and don't like. And you don't want to provide those experiences that people don't like. Just
Yeah, that's a good point. Think of how many data points you have just in your own, existence on this planet as a consumer, and
yeah.
draw from that data source too. That's a good
And
point.
and it's so easy to just move on to something else nowadays, right? Especially
So easy.
if
Switching
you're
costs
shopping
are nearly
websites.
non-existent. Yeah. There's,
Yeah, so you combine all those things. You have, younger print buyers, not as experienced in print and not expected to be even necessarily, right?
yeah.
They're part of the marketing team or they're doing some other administrative jobs in addition to buying print. So they have different experiences. They're younger, they're more involved in online commerce, and that's the mindset that they bring to what they're buying, to the services that they buy, and you have to cater to that. And if you don't, it's not impossible, but you're definitely reducing your odds that way.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll speak on behalf of the millennials because I am one. We grew up in the generation of, we don't really like to talk on the phone. We had the phones and the text messaging and the digital communications pretty early on. And so getting us on the phone is hard. We don't want to do it. And if you're in sales trying to appeal to that market of the next generation of print and technology buyers, then you better have enough information on your website to get past that first round of qualifications, because the idea of filling out that form, right, to get a case study, putting in your phone number and your email, and then having to ward off unsolicited sales calls is probably not going to get you very far in their eyes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then that's the 70%. And the 30% these days is more about minimizing risk and risk management than anything else, because the
Couldn't agree more.
technologies, I mean, they all work for the most part, whether it's on the print side or finishing side or software side. It's rare that you have a technology fail in today's marketplace. But so it's usually about expectations, service support, installation, getting the
So
people setting the expectation. The finish line has to be well defined. The finish line is not the sale, right? The finish line is when the company is utilizing their investment the way that they pictured it, and maybe even a
yes.
little more than that, right? So that's what more people are. People have in general, most people have the money to buy something, otherwise they wouldn't be out shopping, And it's not that they don't want to spend it, they don't want to waste it because they might just have one shot for something big and impactful, whether it's an enterprise software or a digital press or finishing equipment,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
They're looking for the one at this moment in time that's going to make the biggest impact on their business. And they can't afford to have it go a year without it producing in the way that they expected. And
No,
so that's
absolutely.
really number one, I think, at the current moment. We're not in one of those business phases where it's like build it and they will come, like the 90s. Everyone was buying anything that they could because the economy was so great, right? That's not the case right now. So we have to be much more cautious.
Think about being a salesperson back in that era, how fun it would be.
Yeah.
Everyone's just buying. But no, I mean, I definitely agree with that shift and the ability to de-risk because I mean, I've heard stories, even just at Rackame, where clients will come to us after a failed implementation using another vendor where maybe they came in a little bit less than we did or they just offered something a little bit differently, but now they're 3 or 4 years into an implementation and they're still not done. And was that an issue of not really understanding the problems to begin with, scoping it incorrectly? So many things can go wrong if you don't find the right supplier relationship. So I think we're going to
Yes.
start to see procurement and supply chain really start to play a bigger and bigger role because you're right, people want to make an impact, but if they make the wrong impact, that's their job, that's potentially the company if it's a big enough of an issue,
Yep.
especially in our small print and mail business. So,
Right.
yeah, de-risking is the name of the game.
It is, and it is for $100,000 investment or $1 million investment because for that,
Yeah,
the people spending the 100,000, that for them it's like $1 million, right? And they just
absolutely.
they can't do that. And one interesting thing, by the way, congratulations on your promotion. So now I'm going to make a guess that you'll see more involvement in contracts and the creation of contracts, and of course there's always legal and that. And go back to what I said earlier, finance and operations people, they want everything guaranteed in their favor in the contract that they're selling. And I would say buyers, I very rarely found someone that wanted an ironclad guarantee, but they just didn't want to get taken advantage of, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes
Mhm.
you get in these like legal things, and then now here I am, a sales director in the middle of it. I don't want to bother with any. Look, this is a handshake. This. You have to approach it with the spirit of making it work. We're going to work together. We're going to do this. I don't want to have a legal relationship with our customers. They're not asking for a guarantee. So I think that spirit is really important in a reduce the risk type environment. You have to make sure that your warranties and your support and your customer success and your implementation and all of those things are solid. You got to be able to validate it. That's what the 30% is going to be about. That's what
Yeah.
people are going to want to know. Okay, I can buy it. I think I know you have a good whatever it is they're buying, but can all these other things happen, right? Can you support it? Can you support it beyond? How long do you warranty? What happens if this happens, right? And so it's always been part of the equation, but it's the biggest part of the equation now. It's not the
Oh,
20, it's the 80 now, right?
yeah. Ooh, I love that. All right. Well, I know we briefly talked about Printing United, but I would like to pick your brain and just
Sure.
get some of your hot takes. Why are you going? What are you looking forward to seeing there?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. This is the first year I won't be standing in a booth in quite some time. I'm actually, in a sense,
Wow.
I'm really attending, right? Sales wisdom is really just me, and my daughter helps me out part time as a graphic designer, and that's it. So I don't have a booth, of course, or anything. So I did get the honor, as you did, to be named the Print
Yes.
United All Star. Congratulations to you, fellow All Star. Well deserved.
Likewise, I know. What a fascinating program. And that's the reason we even met and crossed paths. So I have to already thank them for that.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, I want to circle back to that. But this year it'll be interesting for me. I've got a couple of different projects I'm doing. Well, first of all, I'm attending as a member of the community, right? I'm,
Yes.
I'm going to try and get as much time to just see it and talk to people like a true attendee, right? And because I haven't had the chance to do that. And you know what it's like. You're a vendor, you're there, and on the last day, I think I'll get around to the other booths. And of course,
Yeah.
it almost never happens, right?
Yeah.
So, so I'm going to try and spend some time doing that. But I have a couple of video projects I'm doing, one for Printing United, one for What They Think. I signed up to do the student tours because being a former printing student, I do have a soft spot in my heart for that. And I did get to know some of the students last year that came to our booth, and I've stayed in touch with several of them. And I just really, it excites me just to see them and just coming into the industry. I'm towards the end of my career, so I'll be involved in the tour, and then of course I'd like to be probably be doing some moderating at the Spilly Ink session. So I'll definitely have a busy week, but I'm excited. It's such a great show. I've been a big supporter since the very beginning. And I know the term convergence can be a positive or a negative, but the reality is it's happening and it's created a lot of growth in a lot of areas of our business. And I think the people who get it are the ones who are taking advantage of it and they're doing well. And so I'm excited to try and be a part of that.
Oh, that's amazing. Are you going to be hosting any of the roundtables?
I don't know yet. I haven't seen the schedule come out. Maybe I missed it. So
Oh, I mean, yeah, I guess I need to check my email and look at the schedule too. But I think it's all hands on deck. So if I didn't misunderstand, then I'll see you at the roundtables. I'm really looking forward to seeing what sort of conversations
yeah.
we can spark and moderate at those because as someone who's usually stuck in a booth all day, getting to talk to folks not about just my product or our software, but about the challenges they're seeing is high on my list of things I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I signed up to do it, so I'm sure I'll be at least at one. But I've got a lot
Right.
of things to balance timing wise right now. But I'm sure it'll work out. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I think that was a great add to the event. It's
Yeah.
nice to bring the peers together and give them a chance to just talk amongst themselves and network amongst themselves and learn among themselves because, again, all these different people that can combine businesses or refer to each other, or if you want to learn about another business, there's no better way to do that than just having those types of conversations with people.
Hmm. And I think there's some really great networking events that go on after the show. I mean, this is the first year I'm going to be at those after dark networking. Well, I'm not even sure if it's a big networking event. It seems like just a big party from the
Yeah.
pictures I have seen. Have you actually ever been to those? Have you
No, I
gone?
never have because, part of corporate, they're always trying to keep the budget down. Oh, I don't know if I'm
Right.
going to spend for the whole team, an extra $100 each or whatever it is, right? So yeah, no, I'm definitely in on that this year, and I agree. I hope it's more of a party than a networking event, but we can combine the two, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. Talk about print over a margarita.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
uh, But no, I'm curious to see what the AI Pavilion has in store. I think that's where I'm going to be spending a decent chunk of my time. And then yeah, I need to go over the sessions. Are you going to any sessions? Have you already planned out your route?
I'm not, Katelin, I'm signed up for a couple,
Okay.
it depends when all of these other things fall into place. If I can,
Yeah.
or not. So I'm sure I'll go to a couple. One of my clients is in the promotional business. They've gone in the other direction. They're promo going into commercial, right? So that's what I've been helping them
Oh,
with.
that's
Yeah.
interesting.
And well, with promo, but to the commercial market, maybe I should clarify that. So there's a breakfast, and they're sponsoring part of it. So I'll definitely be at that. And there's several other of the AI sessions. I'm sure I'll try and get into the AI pavilion just to hear the ones where they're speaking right in there as best as I can. And one of my other clients, my newest client, actually is looking to move. They're moving into the print or looking at the print industry as an opportunity for their AI services. They're like
Ooh.
a full stack digital marketing company that uses AI tools and teaches. So they have like DIY launch packages as well too. Which when I saw it, I said, I think this is what this our industry is looking for, especially the
That
smaller mid-sized companies who don't have their own IT people and they can't go out and hire a consultant and all those types of things. They give me some guidance and get some recommendations, and then we'll do it ourselves. And that's how small businesses prosper, right? So I feel like this is an opportunity, and I think there's just dozens and hundreds of small things like that are percolating right now under the umbrella of AI that's going to make a
Yeah.
lot of excitement over the next couple of years.
The microservices, the individual agents that you can configure. I think there's all of these, tiny little businesses and tool sets that, are going to come to fruition. Now it'll
Yeah.
be interesting having to hunt through all of those and figure out what would be relevant to me and how do I use these, little
Yeah.
pieces of technology. But, you know, that's why we're all in it together.
That's
Well,
right. That's what's so great about this show is at least you have so many of those people represented there at that show. If you can't draw some information or make some connections there, then, it's definitely the best place to do it.
definitely. Well, I look forward to actually seeing you in person at Printing United in
Yeah,
just a few
likewise.
weeks here. And with that, I think we can wrap it up. Thank you again for joining, Mark. And, we look forward to hopefully many more great conversations and seeing what you're doing in the market as things
Ab-
progress.
Absolutely. I had a great time doing this, Katelin. So if you ever want me back, I would love to be here. And yes, I look forward to
Yeah.
seeing you at Printing United. I think we'll have a great time.
Well, maybe we need to do a little post Printing United recap then, and we can talk about our biggest takeaways. That might be fun.
I like it. Great idea.
All right. Well, until next time, thank you, Mark. And thank you to everyone for listening. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.